All the best, Ronnie.
Stay away from me.
Thank you. The first frame, Ronnie O'Sullivan to break.
Well, it's been quite a long wait, hasn't it, for these two while the Trump match ground on. We still could have, for the third year running in this tournament, a Judd Trump Ronnie O'Sullivan final, but I'm sure O'Sullivan will take nothing for granted. He lost, of course, to Matthew Stevens in the English Open, and he will be aware of all the shocks that have happened in the last day and a bit. Of course, Mark Allen, the latest real big hitter to lose this afternoon.
Wow.
Ready, Matthew Stevens knocks in a long red.
One.
Be fun.
I have to say Matthew played very well when they met last time.
Four.
Thought you know, he thoroughly deserved his win in the English. This was the red that went in off the jaw. Maybe Ronnie didn't believe that that was in, but it certainly dropped. But Matthew would probably have to play at least as well again, I think. I feel that Ronnie seems to be in good form, and if you're going to beat him, then you're going to have to earn every point. You know, he's simply not in that freewheeling mode that we've seen him before in the home nations, where he just goes for everything.
5.
No, I mean, he's played already in this tournament, O'Sullivan. This is in almost the exact opposite way to the way he's been talking. He's been saying, I'm here for a bit of fun, I'm not really bothered. Yesterday against Elliot Slesser, in the first frame, when he needed loads of snookers, he played on just to get a feel of the table, which is the professional thing to do when you're here to win, which of course he is. Matthew's got those great memories. It was this very table, actually, wasn't it? Just a few weeks ago, the English Open, he played superbly, finished off with a century, won 4-1, really played well.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious that Ronnie has got very little to prove at snooker anymore. He's been there, done a lot
11.
on numerous occasions, but you know, in Elliot Slesser and Matthew Stevens, at least he's playing someone that he knows full well can beat him. Many of his opponents, you get the feeling beat before they started, but the fact that they have beaten him proves otherwise.
Matthew Stevens, 11.
Not a good way to miss it when the red comes back towards cue ball and the action. What's Ronnie doing here?
Yeah,
Getting
sure.
something out of his case. I don't know what.
I think he's just getting his chalk there, was he?
Yeah, it's always handy to use a bit of that, isn't it? I think that cleaning the white was just giving him a bit of a sort of 10 seconds extra time to get everything organised.
John Higgins is underway. He's won the first frame against Matt Sell. It's a brutal little section, actually. If Higgins wins, he plays Ding. The winner to play potentially Ronnie O'Sullivan or Tepchara Nu. So considering all the upsets, that little section, very, very tough. In fact, Higgins just gone 2-0, as I say that.
little shake of the head. He's been competing very hard in the safety, I think. I saw Elliot Slesser put up a message that he thought he played well. Ronnie he thought was brilliant, and his safety, he said, Ronnie's safety got him in all kinds of trouble. And of course, we know the game, we've seen it enough, but not everyone might associate him with that side of things if you're fairly new to the game. But he's not really a part of O'Sullivan's game this week, and he can tie you up in knots if he wants to.
Foul. A miss. Matthew
Great
Stevens
effort.
4.
Yeah, before the 2004 World Championship, which was his second world title, he started to work with Ray Reardon,
Matthew?
who I know instilled a lot of discipline into him. If you've seen our documentary, The Joy of Six, he talks about working with Ray on there.
Foul. And a miss. Matthew Stevens 4.
Well, I think the problem here for O'Sullivan, what he's trying to do is just get the top edge of that. And now he can see a red. He can't really do it the third time, so we'll take the line off because he's not going to be playing at that shot. But that was the attempt, 1 and 2, just hit the top end of that red. So he's aiming for a minuscule amount of the red ball.
I actually think he reminded the ref there to warn him.
The reason he didn't go that way the first time because it was perilously close to the double kiss, and O'Sullivan would have been aware of that.
One.
Wouldn't have been choosing a shot like that. He looks pretty innocuous. He may have even left a little thin edge of that red on, so Ronnie will play safe off that if he can hit it.
Thank you.
I think Ronnie, it's safe to say that he poses a very stern examination for the referees. You know, he keeps them on their toes. He makes sure that they do everything right. He's a bit of a stickler, Ronnie, for things like that. He wants everything to be done correctly, and why not? That's their job.
Yeah, and the other challenge is, of course, the pace he plays at when he's in scoring. They've really got to be on the case, you know, putting the black or whatever colour on its spot and just being in the right spot. And it's something maybe you don't get with every player.
That was completely overhit. Too hard and too thin on the red. It's a bad combination.
One.
It's got a good look about it, isn't it? I know the cue ball's near the
6.
side cushion, but to land on that red is not a bad shot. Closer to the red, it would have been A1.
7.
Well, imagine finishing
14.
there. Just went completely through them.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose he hit the one joint in between the two reds where he was going to slither through them, but it was hard to imagine it. Could have had 1,000 guesses to spot the ball job. He would never put the cue ball on top of the green.
Ronnie O'Sullivan, 14.
So this match a little bit cagey early on. As I say, they've had a long time to wait though to get on. Some great performances today. Xiao Jingtong was absolutely superb against Lucas Kleckers. Kurt Mafflin had a load of breaks as well against Ryan Day. So although there's been maybe some upsets, the quality of snooker being played has been really high.
Yes, I mean, people always say, well, you might get a shock winner in the home nations. Of course, it hasn't happened since the first season. But of course, if it is going to happen, it's more likely if there are continuously shocks. The tournament, if you like, falls apart around certain players, and you get a field of people who think, well, someone's going to have to win this now who hasn't won before. Usually if there's an O'Sullivan or a Trump or a player like that, or John Higgins still in, they're probably going to convert a quarter-final or semi-final to lifting the trophy.
What?
Well, this looks a better chance now to put something together.
He played that well to finish where he did on the blue and get the pot.
Six. Seven.
It's been said several times that Matthew Stevens so far has only won one ranking event, but he's also won quite a few big invitation titles. The Masters, of course, also the Scottish Masters, which was a big event, sort of season opening event every year. And in successive rounds there in '99, he beat O'Sullivan, Mark Williams and John Higgins to win the tournament. So that's the level he was at.
15.
Competing with those three greats.
Yeah, I mean, it's factually correct, isn't it? He has won one ranking event, and that was a big one in the UK, but I mean, he's ever so close to have picked up the Triple Crown. He's led overnight in 2 world finals. You know, his pedigree is
22.
very high class one in snooker. In many ways, it's a question of what might have been, I think, for Matthew, although, of course, his career is far from over. Many players at this age have seen the best of them. But probably underachieved. But I know he has.
No, and as I was saying, some of these, well, that's a big
23.
bounce. Wow. Yeah, Judd Trump was talking about the tables, said he found it difficult. I was just going to say, you know, it's not all about ranking events. In an invitation event, you're guaranteed to play top players. In a ranking event, you know, the draw could open up. Anyway.
The up and down is not so difficult where the bolt colours are just not in the way. A big bounce to your favour and bounce it far enough to get onto a red.
28.
Been a bit of criticism of the tables, and I'm sure they're not making it up, these players, but what I would say is that the table fitters cannot work any harder than what they are right now. They are putting tables in and out, setting up things in this building, and have been doing for weeks, and
29.
these guys are absolutely flat to the boards in what they're doing.
Well, he's recovered it really well, hasn't he? So, still going.
$34. Matthew Stevens, 34.
Well, he was up immediately. Felt he got a bad contact. So he's going along nicely, but still plenty on. He leads by 40.
Well, not quite the start we were anticipating for this match. Certainly not for O'Sullivan, who's made a couple of errors.
One.
John Higgins has made a 130 in frame 3 to lead Matt Selt 3-0, so Higgins firmly in control. Good pot from Stevens, he had to get it, didn't he, with the red over the pocket. And the miss from O'Sullivan looks like it's cost him the frame.
6. Seven.
Black puts him 54 in front, 51 on. Well, O'Sullivan, he had a
14.
chance here, and you just kind of expect Ronnie to pot everything, don't you? He didn't pot this one.
15.
And as I say, it was costly.
Yeah, they're not easy shots. He makes them look easy, and so do all these players, but he can always push one onto the near jaw, as he managed there on that shot, playing a hold for the black.
Matthew Stevens,
Anyway,
15.
I don't think that will make any difference. I expect Ronnie to concede the frame. Snooker's required. Oh, yes, carrying on. 55 in it. I suppose where the colours could hardly be better, really, for getting Snooker's.
One.
Maybe he will express an interest. I know the other day in one of his matches, I think it was yesterday against Slesser, he just cleared up from here to get a bit of practice, but it'll be interesting where all those balls are at the other end, surely. I mean, they've just laid out in lines.
8.
So he could conceivably try for snookers when he, more often than not, wouldn't bother.
Ronnie O'Sullivan, 8.
I mean, where they are, it's almost harder not to get one. It's whether he can lay a really nasty one.
Tremendous roar in the background there. Not sure what happened there.
Maybe it's someone who's been here for several weeks trying to get out, because some of the World Snooker staff, they have been here a while.
There's a match going on still between Igor Figueiredo and Zhao Jianbo, which Figueiredo looks like, well, he's in front of the decider anyway. I won't preempt it because I'm not sure the state of the balls, but there's a red left. And that would be a very big match for those two to be playing again today for a place in the quarterfinals tomorrow.
Well, he's 30 in front now on the yellow, so I don't know whether he was celebrating there or what. I don't know.
No, but the importance of these matches to all players, of course, is obvious, but to some players it really is potentially the kind of match that could take them to the next level at the game.
47 behind here, 35 on, but one 4-point snooker with a free ball, and suddenly, you know, he could actually tie with the black.
One thing I will say, Dave, I mean, with Ronnie, I mean, there was a few times last year, let's be honest about it, in these home nations, just swinging his cue at everything, seemingly taking liberties, but he's competing hard. This frame is gone now, but, you know, he's trying for every point.
Definitely, it's good to see. But what a read from Stevens. I mean, O'Sullivan would feel he should have had him snooker, but a great pot nonetheless to bring the curtain down on this frame. Fantastic. So it's taken a bit of time to get going, but the in-off's not going to make any difference there. Ronnie O'Sullivan, I'm sure, has seen enough. Well, he is coming back to the table, so 51 behind.
Well, I'll be honest, I would have had my last £5 on him conceding there.
Well, 51 behind, so what's that, 6 snookers?
Can do what he wants. There's nothing against players doing that.
A little bit of ticker tape, just descending.
I said this before, there was an elderly, very good player from London called Dickie Laws from Hammersmith. Played in the English Amateur Championship. Fine player. So he's getting on in years. He would never concede until there were no balls left on the table. 10 snookers, carry on. It was a nightmare playing him because you'd had to pop everything, and that's the only way you knew you'd won.
Ronnie O'Sullivan, 2.
Well, there's sorry if Jimmy's listening, but there's the ticker tape. There's on YouTube. There's a match Jimmy played with John Spencer at the British Open, where Spencer wins a frame after 6 snookers.
3.
Anyway, the green's in, and the frame. Well, it was over anyway, but it's definitely over now.
7. Matthew Stevens, 7.
He's carrying on.
Well, I think it's just his new thing, isn't it? He's going to do. Matthew looks completely bemused by it.
Entirely up to him, as I say. There's nothing in the rules. People say it's bad etiquette. It's none of the kind. You can do what you want.
True, but I remember when Alain Robidoux did this to him at the Crucible on the pink in that match where Ronnie had played left-handed, beaten him well, and O'Sullivan wasn't too impressed with that.
Fair point, Dave. Well remembered.
But as you say, you know, he's entitled to do what he likes.
Five.
To be honest, that on YouTube is worth having a little look if you've got a good 20 minutes to spare, because that's how long it takes on those colours. I'm sure it was a ill-tempered game. And then Robidoux is an absolute diamond of a fella, but he took umbrage to what was going on. Anyway.
5.
May also be a little bit of just trying to loosen up a bit. They had a long, you know, hanging around backstage. But anyway, the frame is over. It just isn't over. If that makes sense. It might be, though. Well, it will be if you can knock this in. So there we are.
6.
I think you'd better knock the black in, I suppose. Otherwise, you might might stay on.
13 on the frame.
Well, Matthew Stevens had won the frame a while ago. Remember, he beat O'Sullivan in that English Open here just a few weeks ago, and already here this afternoon. He leads in 1-0. John Higgins not far from booking his place in the last 16. He played Ding Junhui. He's 3-0 up, 51-0 against Matt Selt. So Higgins looking good. As I say, a brutal little section. Tepchara knew he's waiting for the winner of the match between O'Sullivan and Stevens. Just joining us, Matthew Stevens won the first frame. And Igor Figueiredo has just won 4-3 against Zhao Jianbo. So Figueiredo, will play Norway's Kurt Maflin for a place in the quarterfinals.
Thank you. The second frame.
Yes, and apparently it was Figueiredo, that raw you heard. Potting match ball, I'm told, by somebody on Twitter. That may or may not be true, but I suspect it is. Like I say, these matches mean an awful lot. A Brazilian player getting to a latter stage of an event. That is a first in snooker. I think the good thing, Dave, over the last few years is we've seen different nations not necessarily linked with snooker starting to, you know, grow, and players coming through, bringing other players on as well.
Yes, of course, we don't see every table. We can't vouch for the quality of every match, but we get all the sheets through, and there's been some real big breaks made over the last couple of days in matches that obviously, you know, not on this main table, but eventually we'll see some of the players on it make their way through.
Plenty of thought here from O'Sullivan. So, two people thought it was rather strange he played on in that last frame, I've noticed. I understand that, but Kenny's allowed to, but he's certainly trying, isn't he? Not necessarily playing as well as he can. He's worried about the red on the left of the table is in play on this safety shot if he doesn't get it right. And he's whacked straight into it. But looks to have got away with it. To protect that red over the pocket with the other two here. Doesn't want the cue ball to go too far to the left. I think he's left the red on. Certainly something sticking out. Whether it's enough to pot this red. As he looks on, you can only judge it by the expression on your opponent's face. What do you think? Maybe just see enough. Guess we'll never know. I think hitting it that hard, it was the problem there. Playing it at that sort of speed, lose your accuracy of touch. So it's 1-0 to Matthew. The match hasn't really ignited yet. Matthew's got to worry about that. Maybe Ronnie will have to be thoughtful about why he's not performed yet. He's missed a couple. Getting the cue ball down to the bulkhead, got the double kiss on the red. so. Trying a little bit too hard. Is he too studious here? He's a fierce competitor. At the moment, he just hasn't quite got his game going. It's early days.
Wow.
Best of 7. It's not a long match, but it's in the fairly early stages. And if he compiles a break here, then a fairly sticky start might be forgotten.
Six. Seven.
Difficult table with the black is, of course, O'Sullivan, absolute master around the black spot, but where it is, it's buried. It's completely out of the game.
12. Thirteen.
Looking to reach the last 16 of a Home Nation Series event for the 12th time from 17 tournaments. So, you know, he's very consistent normally in the early rounds of these events. Of course, Matthew Stevens denied him at the last one.
Yes, of course, he's only won one of them, hasn't he? Well, I say only. It's good to win any of these, the English.
90.
He won, second year of it, but for someone who's always been there or thereabouts, you know, maybe he'll be disappointed not to have won a couple more of the Home Nations events before now.
Yeah, he's played in all but one of them. There's only that Scottish Open he withdrew from just after he won the UK a couple of years ago.
$20.
He's been in the last two finals of this event to Judd Trump on both occasions.
$27.
Well, that's got the black back on its spot.
$28.
And it was buried, as I've pointed out, but as you say, he's got it on its spot. He's an absolute master at getting the high value colours out in the open. No one's ever done it better.
Just to say, John Higgins has won 4-0, so Higgins will play Ding
35.
Junhui tonight in a very tasty last 16 match. They played a couple of times, haven't they, this season? They played in the English, they played in the Champion of Champions.
Yep, they're one each.
$36.
Very well cued shot. So was that. All of a sudden, pieces of the jigsaw starting to come
43.
together.
There's just no one better. There never has been anyone as good at just unlocking a frame.
44. 49. 50.
'So something will have to go
56.
dramatically wrong to stop him now. 56 in front already. Not that much more to do to level up.
57.
Got Matthew Stevens in a nasty spot and has taken advantage of the opening he earned from it.
Well, he's recovered the situation very well, and Matthew,
62.
I don't think, believed it. There was an awful lot on when Ronnie came to the table.
63.
Didn't appear that way.
The pink then, and Matthew Stevens is going to require a snooker.
$69. 70.
'He might play the cannon on the two reds because the way the century becomes on. Has he just pushed that red too thin? I'm not sure. Got it from
77.
there. It's a thin snick anyhow. Cue ball heading up the table.
78.
Oh, yeah. Should have played anyway to a player, but you have to give full marks for effort here.
80.
Playing flat out, as he did all the way through the World Championships. You know, you can't win it without competing hard. And
81.
for the moment, that is his way of playing, and it, as we know, has not always been like that.
$87. 88. 95. 96.
Oh, the red wriggles in, and the blue for the century.
Well, it would have been a pity had he missed that, because the way he's made this break from very little. It's something to see, actually. Very, very good.
101.
Fourth century of the season.
103. Ronnie O'Sullivan 103 and the free.
103 from Ronnie O'Sullivan to level up. Terrific break, as I say, really unlocked things, unpicked things so expertly there. We're all square at one each. So Ronnie O'Sullivan with a break of 103 has levelled up with Matthew Stevens. Another of the game's all-time greats has booked his place through. As I mentioned just a few minutes ago, this is John Higgins just completing victory over Matt Sell. 4-0, pretty comprehensive. He had that 130 in the third frame. This was a 55 break to finish things. So John Higgins will play Ding Junhui. Doesn't get any easier, does it? But Higgins still going. It's a little bit of a spring in his step, I think, this season. He's played well already in this tournament, and you can't ask for better than 4-0, and that was the result.
Well, the tournament is building up very nicely, isn't it? With a real good blend of, you know,
Thank you,
the
the
old
third frame. Ronnie O'Sullivan to break.
established players and the other players coming through, emerging talent.
Yes, some of them emerged a long time ago, including the man at the table who's made it one each with that century.
6-1.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, it was a delightful piece of cueing. It's always nice when they're straight and the cue ball almost ends up where the object ball was. So it is well worth another look. Beautiful.
Eight. Nine.
I think he wasn't sure whether it went. He played it with right hand side just to turn the angle wider, make it potable. It's always been a little bit of a mystery. People say, you know, what happened to Matthew Stevens? And so, well, he's still on the tour. The last
12.
year, 18 months, have been, you know, a real sign of revival, which I don't think necessarily was there before that. He had a few years in the doldrums, maybe not enjoying the game, perhaps fallen out of love with it. There were signs. We don't want to say too much, but signs he's on the comeback. It's like anything else, isn't it, Dave? He's got to be good enough in the first place, and he is, so that's in his favour. The rest of it is how much he still wants it. And saw in his match against Ronnie in the English, he's still got the ability.
13.
Not beyond the pink. That was lucky.
Yeah, he raised his hand to acknowledge that. Yeah, I agree. I think as well, you know, he's played a lot of snooker last few years round on one of the back tables where, okay, it's the same game, but it's not the same atmosphere. Even though he's got a very tough match, of course, against O'Sullivan, I think he'd much prefer to be here on the main table.
Give us a second, please, Matthew.
One thing, of course, that links the two of them, they're both UK champions, and the UK Championship starts on Monday, the day after this event finishes, and for the first time, Eurosport will have live coverage of the first week. So next Monday, we'll start our first round coverage in the afternoon. Hope you can join us for that. Promises to be a memorable couple of weeks. Of course, one of the oldest tournaments
19.
in the sport.
Oh, again, I'm not sure he played it quite like that. He hit the black and the red there. On the black. Basically, all this is skirting around the issue of what getting this bunch open at some early point, and he's not been able to do that yet. There's only one more chance to do it now off this next colour.
28.
The break, of course, ends. Playing this angle on the black. He's got to be careful. If it's the pink, he could just hit it half ball, and the cue ball could end up in the bulk area if he isn't careful. The pot is not sitting over the pocket either. Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
35.
The angle coming into the bunch was one that was also going to come out of the bunch.
Matthew Stevens, 35.
What was Ronnie seen? He was looking in amongst the bunch of reds there. There's no obvious, it's definitely not any sort of plant, I don't think, that he can get to anyway. It's loose red. Taking it on with a view not to leaving perhaps the plant that Matthew could get to, that Ronnie couldn't. Anyway, queuing over the pink, you wouldn't fancy it.
Remember, there's 2 rounds played today, so whoever wins this match has got to come back this evening to play Tepchar and Nu, who, with his win against Alan Taylor, looks to have, well, come very close to guaranteeing an appearance at the Masters, because, of course, the UK Championship, the next event, is the cut-off for the Masters, so that would be fantastic. Obviously, we don't know yet where that will be played, whether it will be Alexandra Palace or whether it might be here, but the fact that he's in it is an asset to any tournament, the way he plays. That's not confirmed yet, of course, but the UK Championship is the cut-off event.
Sullivan thought he had a big pocket there for that red with the brown near it. A bit of battle of wits once again this frame. Again, not something you associate with O'Sullivan. This, all the safety from this end of the table. Really his style, but probably capable of adapting to most things. Right in the middle, if he plays it and misses it, he's leaving the other reds to the opposite middle. Didn't go for it at all there. Concentrating more on getting the cue ball into an area. But he still left a red, a thin one. But you can imagine that if Matthew misses this, he's leaving the absolute world. Because all those reds are so open down the centre of the table. Everything is not a ball anywhere near a cushion. 10 reds left. What a chance.
Oh. Ronnie O'Sullivan 4.
Oh, goodness. Well, cancel that. What a significant in-off that is. I mean, how can you see this going in-off? How's he missed everything on the way through? That's unlucky.
One.
This is an absolute gift. Look at these. Reds everywhere.
Yeah, and we've seen, particularly in short matches, you know, one shot can really turn things. We saw it yesterday, certainly, with Dominic Dale and Mark Williams when Dominic fluked that yellow in the second frame.
3. Ball. Six.
Of course, he played Tepchar in the first round of the World Championship. He was his first opponent, and it was actually a record fastest ever match at the Crucible. He won 10-1. Tepchar waiting in the last 16.
7.
Quite sure he's got himself into a slightly awkward place from where everything is. So, minor recovery shot here that shouldn't really have to be played. That's okay. He'd been, I think, infuriated had he missed that.
10. $11.
The red on the blue
18.
spot looks like an option. It's just a fraction further. He wants to be. He's not comfortable, was he? To say the least.
19.
Anyway, it goes. Brown is clearing that right-hand middle pocket now, so that's one other potential obstacle that'll be out of the way. Still behind, it's worth mentioning. You know, you think this frame is going to be his, but he's still going to take these. Strange shot there. Can't believe he meant to finish where he has.
Ronnie O'Sullivan,
Well,
23.
That was a very strange old break, wasn't it? I mean, it looked like it was harder to miss for someone as good as O'Sullivan there, but he didn't go on and win the frame when it seemed about 100 to 1 on to me. Shot before that red was not one of his finest.
1.
Wow, what about that? Well, if Ronnie was frustrated, I should think Matthew is even more after that last shot.
Pink ball.
That is a brilliant recovery shot.
7.
Doesn't deserve it if the black has covered that red to the right middle. I don't know if it has or not. Maybe it can get through. Fairly tight, but I think there's enough of the pocket available.
8.
Some funny things happening in this frame.
Well, he keeps on potting.
14.
Of course, that in off. He must have thought that was curtains for him in this frame, but he's got himself another chance after O'Sullivan missed.
15.
The head-to-head massively favours O'Sullivan, 16-6, but it must make some sort of difference that Matthew Stevens won their most recent meeting in this very arena just a few weeks back at the English Open. It was in the same round, the last 32, 4-1. Again, he's not happy with the table. I mean, we heard Judd Trump talking about it, and he won. But here, conditions would seem not favourable, and he's not on the red. just needed to get on it. Really, the frame was his. So 26 the lead, 35 on.
Matthew Stevens, 18.
Well, it's strange, Dave, isn't it? I mean, you're right. Clearly, the players aren't totally enamoured with the conditions, and yet we had only yesterday a 147 on this table, and various other huge breaks. Yet today, for whatever reason, I'm sure the player's not making it up. He's not playing as well. One day later.
No, I think if a player wins and talks about conditions, then they're worth listening to. If you lose, you've always got the feeling that it's just sour grapes. Well, that's worked out pretty well. So, a chance. He's 26 in front. He needs red and colour. In a frame that O'Sullivan had a really good chance in after Matthew Stevens went in off.
One.
O'Sullivan, you've got to say, has really competed in all areas, but looks like this frame's gone away from him.
8. 10. 13.
So I guess
19.
frame 4 becomes a big one. If Matthew Stevens can win that one as well, then chance to beat O'Sullivan for second time in just a few weeks.
22. In the frame, Matthew Stevens.
So Matthew Stevens, he's back in front here. It's hard-fought stuff, despite the century, of course, from O'Sullivan in the previous frame. He did have a chance, missed that red. Eventually, Stevens takes it to lead 2-1. So it's 2-1 to Matthew Stevens, race to 4 to reach the last 16 of the Northern Ireland Open. This was the red that O'Sullivan missed when he was in, and this was the red that Stevens potted, which effectively won him the third frame. He was a little bit fortunate. He did fluke that snooker on it, didn't he? That's how O'Sullivan left the red on, but of course he did have his chance, Ronnie, and missed the red when he was in.
Stevens to break.
As I say, this fourth frame now feels like a big one. If Stevens can win it, he just puts the pressure on O'Sullivan to find some sort of response. Matthew Stevens currently 31st in the world rankings as he catches the blue there. Wow, that is not good. Well, we see all sorts of break-off shots go wrong, and this is quite an unusual one in a way.
1.
Well, it's less common nowadays, Dave. I must admit there was always a... That used to be the way that a break-off would go wrong, more so than a red coming up the table or anything. Hitting the blue used to be the issue. It's gone out of the game a little. The annoyance, you know, even when you're practicing, when you hit the blue, you invariably knock the ball safe, which doesn't really help either player when you're practicing.
Eight.
He wouldn't have particularly wanted to play the black. I mean, it is potable from where he's standing, but it's not accessible from everywhere. That cue didn't go through straight there.
Ronnie O'Sullivan, 8.
Now his cue comes off his bridge a little bit there. The cue definitely didn't go through as straight as it usually does. There's a very unfortunate noise there. I don't know who it was from. I've got my suspicions.
Well, I thought the wind was in our studio.
Oh, goodness me. It was...
Well, he couldn't be any redder, could he? If he was any redder, it'd be one of the balls in the bunch.
Oh dear. That's what I've... Strange, isn't it? Because we had a couple of balls go in, which maybe didn't look into that pocket, but along the cushion, they still play fairly tight.
One. Five. Six.
Well, as he managed to get on that red into the middle.
13.
Actually, it's at a critical point now that there's not the intensity in there that there was. Both players are trying, but With Matthew winning that last frame, which seemed unlikely at one point, it's just derailed O'Sullivan a little bit.
Matthew Stevens, 13.
Yeah, I mean, Matthew Stevens, he's 2-1 up against Ronnie O'Sullivan. His high break's only 35, so, you know, it's not been necessarily eye-catching stuff from him. That was another chance that's gone begging.
One. Eight. Nine.
Now a chance to get these reds open here. Get these reds open here. Don't think he'll be as pleased as it might have been with that shot. It might have been with that shot. Seemed to screw in and out of a little too much. Out of a little too much. Usually a master at that shot. A master at that shot. I'd be annoyed. Be annoyed. Will not be happy. Will not be happy. The last two shots, in fact. Two shots, in fact. Not going to plan for O'Sullivan. This.
No, I mean, he had that century. It was a wonderful break in the second frame, but otherwise he just seems to be struggling a little bit. Matthew Stevens must sense a chance here. Didn't really get close. To that red.
Eight.
It's a very important passenger play this. Matthew Stevens with a chance to get himself 3-1 up. He's not happy. 3-1 up. He's not happy. The cushions are springy and bouncy. There's a lot of arm waving here. Both players have got their own demons they're battling. Referee as well, but that's another matter.
Well, like I say, it's a definite chance here. It's a definite chance here. To do a red double over O'Sullivan in as many meetings.
Matthew Stevens, 16.
Yeah, well, it's unusual for Matthew to react like that, but he was already annoyed before he played the shot. He's even more annoyed now.
You know what, Dave? There's a part of me that likes to see Matthew caring like that. For a couple of years, I've got the feeling he wasn't all that bothered what happened out there. But he's furious with what happened. In the bounce of that ball finishing straight on the black, giving him fewer options for his position. I think sometimes it's a build-up with a player.
8. 9.
Fuming. The tension builds up. Meanwhile, O'Sullivan has not played a great shot there either. This is thin. The hold of a springy cushion. Goodness me. This match is a very important one. The winner could go on and win this tournament. But right now, neither player is feeling very confident at all.
Bit of a stretch on this one. Bit of a stretch on this one as well. Yeah, it's just just become a tale of misses.
Well, not that bad.
They're saying, well, Ronnie's saying that the table's hard. So, you know, Judd Trump did say he was finding it difficult, and seems these two are as well.
1.
Yeah, the intensity is gone. Someone's just got to pick it up. We know the table's not playing well, but
8.
just got to try and get the win.
Nine.
Remember the greatest snooker coach of all, Frank Callan, who I had some dealings with. He helped me a little bit with my game, not as much as some of the big hitters, but he helped me. And once complaining the table wasn't very good, he said, look, they are the conditions. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to complain about them, or are you going to try and win?
16.
And Ronnie is very rare to complain about tables. This table must be
17.
not playing to a great level, but ultimately you've got to try and find a way, and usually he does.
$24.
And often he's seen it as a bit of a challenge, actually.
$25.
Won't need the safe red on the cushion.
No, or if he did, of course, he would probably have a shot here to screw it into play. But as you point out, he won't. If he plays on a high-value colour, it's not his problem.
Oh, but he's missed the red. Wow. Funny old frame, Neil, this.
Might have taken his eye off it. First thing to say is, I wonder if Matthew can double the red near the cushion and win the frame. This is a big moment. If this goes in, is the double on? Might be a little bit close to the double kiss. We might have needed the cue ball further up the table and back double it. Got to play the other one.
What?
More bit of ticker tape coming down. Strange old frame, this.
Matthew Stevens, 3.
28 in it, 35 on in this fourth frame.
That's one way of keeping it safe. And the cushion shot like we see on a respot. Good cue ball. Good shot from Matthew. He knew there was a big area to get that, hide that cue ball behind, either pink or black. Tell you, this is a worry now. O'Sullivan could be 28 in front, but I don't know what it means where the balls are. And given the snooker he's in,
Matthew Stevens 4.
Yeah, he hit the red. It was a bit of a blur. He hit the red, but he's gone in off.
kinds happening today, isn't there, in this match? All kinds. The balls have not gone safe. That was the one thing O'Sullivan could have done with something finishing on a cushion. That might be the reason he hit it so hard. But nothing's gone on the cushion.
One.
What a chance for Matthew Stevens.
Yeah, big chance to go within a frame of victory in this match.
Yes, and of course the other thing, just to put all of that nonsense of earlier in this frame
6
behind him and pop these 6 balls.
8. Eleven. 15.
Not perfect by any means. And he'd be a little worried about playing ball. Cue ball's coming across to the left of the table near that left side cushion too much. So maybe might go up and down here. That's what he's done.
20.
Taking the scenic route. Got a massive bounce off that bolt cushion. Might have come in his favour, but he's not a great lover of using the rest. He might be able to reach it now. I think he can.
Take the positives. So he needs pink and black to steal the frame. Got O'Sullivan in a good snooker, in fairness.
26.
I don't know if he can reach this. He can, left-handed.
Matthew Stevens 26.
Whatever next. Whatever next. Not finished. I mean, if that bounces 3 inches off the cushion, it's unmissable. Now it is missable.
Matthew Stevens 26.
Point is, he just doesn't like using the rest. Didn't go for the black. I'm amazed, but he's taken the very, very cautious approach, and he's done it well. Very dramatic frame this, Dave, isn't it?
Eventful, certainly. Yeah, I mean, you know, he doesn't like using the rest, but we've seen him use it. You'd have fancied him to pot the black with the rest. Decided to change hands, missed it.
Ronnie not going for that black. It's all very well, but he would like to think he'll get another chance at it. Matthew will consider the double here if he's got an option of keeping the cue ball safe. That looks to be no. The cast iron safety shot, keeping everything safe. scenario, but this time the double, I think, is interesting him. He does play the double. If it doesn't go in, he doesn't want to hit the far jaw and the black come back towards the cue ball. That's always your worst fear on this shot. That's exactly what's happened.
Well, we've seen all sorts missed already in the frame, so nothing's guaranteed, including this black. Matthew Stevens, though, what a golden chance he had to win this frame.
7 in the frame. Ronnie
Ronnie
O'Sullivan.
O'Sullivan has knocked the black in, and somehow he's levelled up. Dramatic stuff between these two, and plenty more to come. Matthew Stevens will be pig sick, though. He should have been 3-1 up. It's 2-2. So a very dramatic frame. Went to Ronnie O'Sullivan, 2-2. And we can see a lot of misses early on in this frame. Not only misses, it would seem. But that looked like the end for O'Sullivan, leaving everything on. But then Matthew Stevens, rather than get the rest out, played that left-handed, had the chance at the double. The black came back, and Ronnie knocked it in. Eventful stuff, and the match continues 2-2.
Well, as far as that noise was concerned, Dave, I mean, I think we kind of jumped to the impression it was the referee, but I think the jury's out on who was to blame for that.
I didn't know there was a jury actually looking into it, but yeah.
Yeah.
No one's owned up yet.
No. I'll tell you something else. I don't know if you remember, Dave, but in one of those World Finals, Matthew played a couple of left-handed shots. Might have been the one against Sean Murphy, which may be one of the reasons he was never world champion. I know that's a bit dramatic, but he goes left-handed, and I don't think he's good enough. I mean, he's missed before. He's not Ronnie left-handed, and I would back him to pot that with the rest, the one that he missed.
Well, like I said, whenever we've seen him with the rest, and it's not that often, he seems to play well with it. Just obviously doesn't like using it. Has got out of the habit of using it, but it's been very costly there in that frame anyway.
Thank you. The 5th frame. Ronnie O'Sullivan to break. One.
Nothing wrong with that one. Excellent from the Welshman. I think in general, if you're going to take any positives, then you can tell himself, well, O'Sullivan, the century aside, has largely struggled.
Four.
Law's machine has livened up as well. Clapping every shot.
Five. Twelve. Thirteen.
bit unfortunate there. He couldn't really control where that red was going
20.
to end up. Bit thin on the black to be in any control of the shot.
$21.
I think the problem is the cushions are bouncing at a different speed. It's coming off the cushions fast from some and not so quick from others, and you've got to try and work out what cushion is doing what. Which is unusual, but it happens occasionally.
Matthew Stevens, 21.
Won't end up making him feel better the way that break concluded.
No, I mean, his highs break is still only 35. He could have been 3-1 up, despite that. The match has sort of become hard work, hasn't it? The conditions are not helping, that's for sure.
I still never understand it, and I absolutely believe that the table's playing badly. I mean, I'm not going to... You can see by the way the match is going, but as I said, only yesterday we had great snooker. I sort of wonder how things can descend so much in the space of 24 hours. You know, it's an odd one, isn't it? Maybe it's to do with presumably been a bit of rain around today. Maybe there's some dampness that's crept in onto the table. Don't know.
We've got 15 players through to the last 16 of this Northern Ireland Open. 5 members of the top 16 are through. Obviously, if O'Sullivan made it, that'd be 6. A lot of players will be looking at the draw, maybe quietly fancying their chances ahead of Sunday's final. We'll see over the next few days. Just having a look to see if he's left this cut to the middle.
Well, it cuts in all right. It's a question now of, is he going to get through the gap between the green and brown, or is he going to crash into the green here? I suppose when you miss the pot, you don't really know the natural angle. It comes off differently.
One.
Well, he's got to just try and put to one side what happened. He can't affect what happened in the last frame. He can obviously affect this frame. Now then, is he on this red? Does this red go to the right corner? I think so. Yep.
Seven. $12. $13.
By the way, we will start our coverage tonight of the last 16 on this table with Judd Trump against Martin Gould. Of course, Gould beat Trump in the semi-finals of the European Masters in early season.
18.
Well, he's got himself into a good position here, and he can't afford for it to be squandered like the previous frame. Finds himself not exactly in position A on this red.
Matthew Stevens,
Dear.
18.
Oh dear. Well, he got himself to a position of strength, but I'm not so sure he's in that now that he's missed.
One. Six. Seven. Twelve. Thirteen.
Now, winning the frame is not guaranteed here, especially in the context of the way this match has gone. But the chance for Ronnie to step up a gear, which is kind of what
20.
I think the match needs and what he needs.
21. $28. 29.
Yeah, it seems Matthew Stevens, when he was in, he didn't get the intended cannon and left himself that red to the left middle, which he then missed. So, you know, it was another chance. He's had so
32.
many this afternoon.
33.
Well, he'd push that red even further into play. It was the red that's on the right. Perfectly okay as long as you get right behind it, but if you're coming at it from an angle, it's fairly narrow
36.
to that middle pocket, so you will need to be in good position for it. He might take it on here. Having a look. Back to the other one.
37.
Just got to guard against any little unforced errors now, because the frame is there for the taking. Bearing in mind, he should have been 3-1 down. Stevens had that black to go to it with 3 to play.
42.
Just get the feeling had that red gone in the middle, which it didn't, of course, and you felt it was a big shot from Matthew. He
47.
probably would have won the frame. He was a few in front. He was on an easy black, and most of these would have been his, and he didn't need them all.
49.
Green, brown and blue then for 3-2.
52. 56. 61.
On the balance of play, I'm not quite sure how O'Sullivan's in front here. Should never have won the last 2 frames, but he has.
67.
Well, we've seen him blow so many opponents away with great performances, but even if he's not at the very top of his game, you've still got to beat him. You've got to take the chances. Matthew Stevens hasn't done that.
74.
He's now trailing in the match. 74 clearance from Ronnie O'Sullivan. And Matthew Stevens, yeah, you can see his reaction there. He had his chance, but it's O'Sullivan who leads 3-2.
Too much, you burn the cloth, it starts pinging, coming off square, so it's doing exactly what mine done. This heater too hot.
O'Sullivan saying he thinks the heating, the table heater is up too high. Too hot, he says.
I think poor old Ben Williams, you know, he can't really get involved in that. You know, he's there to referee, isn't he? Poor fellow, he doesn't need to be engaging in that sort of talk. I know Ronnie's only speaking to him, but Ben can't really offer an opinion either way, can he?
Well, what he said was he could get the table fitters to look at it after the match, but they're going to continue. It's 3-2 to Ronnie O'Sullivan, so he needs one more, and he'll be out tonight against Tepchara Nu. Remember, we start our coverage at 7:15, the first match featuring the world #1, Judd Trump, against Martin Gould. So do join us for all the build-up from 7:15. That could be a cracker, that one. I know Trump struggled this afternoon, but it's a skill, I think, to get through a match when you're not at your best, and it's a skill he certainly developed. It's not all about the big breaks. If you can win a match like that, as he did, you know, in that English Open, you know, you find yourself there on Sunday in the final with a chance to win it.
Yes, Gould beat him, didn't he, earlier in the season in the European Masters, I think it was. Semi-finals. Went on to lose by the odd frame in the final to Mark Selby.
One.
Made a great sound. Finished a bit awkwardly though, once again.
And he's reached for the rest out of sheer habit, because it's not there at the moment.
He tried to come further to the left there.
6.
Not too sure if he's on one. He's put the rest away, so he mustn't fancy that he can get to either of those two reds.
More ticker tape coming down.
I have to say, I
Ronnie O'Sullivan.
feel a bit sorry for Ben Williams today. He's having a torrid time out there. He's got ticker tape, the rest everywhere. Players complaining about the table. It's not his fault. Maybe being blamed for something he never did earlier as well.
I think, yeah, you know, investigations have been ongoing into all that, and I think Ben was, maybe the finger was wrongly pointed at him.
Yeah.
And a lot of people studying the footage, Neil.
One.
Again, Matthew will be fuming with that. Seems a referee's job is getting more complicated all the time these days, isn't it?
And there's not even an audience. It's not even that to think
No.
about. Mobile phones and all that stuff. Of course, at the Masters this year, he caught a wasp, didn't he, in his hand and was stung. And quite inevitably, I suppose.
Ground ball.
But what a trooper.
Of course, the other thing that happened to him,
Stevens.
Dave,
What?
was that a spider appeared, didn't it? In the, might have been in the one of the recent events, and apparently he's terrified of them.
Monica
And,
had to come and pick
save
it up,
the
didn't
day.
she? The marker, yeah.
Yeah. Who'd be a snooker referee?
Well, at least it was a regular spider, not an extended one.
One.
Well, it's another scoring opportunity. His highest break is still only 35 in this match.
Four. Five.
Another good kiss, but he's all right on the yellow. Of course, at 3-2 down, Matthew is very much in this match, but he might not feel very good about things right now. But clearly, he's in there with a chance. Just all the history of what had happened in the match, he's got to put away.
Seven.
Sometimes you feel it's not going to be your day. You just have to make it your day.
Got to think whatever happens, the scheduling has favoured Tepchar Nu. He played this morning against Alan Taylor and didn't last long. He won 4-0, so he's had a lot of time just to rest up. Of course, whoever wins this match, they'll be second on, but, you know, Trump Gould, that could be a quick one, so there might not be that much of a break.
Eight. $13. $14.
The extension on the cue there. I think, again, a wave of the hands. I think, again, it was surprised by the bounce of that second cushion. Big shot, this. Played it well.
$20.
Probably wonders if he can just run through and get right down onto the black, but I don't know if he's got a straight enough angle on the red he's closest to. So he's back on the other one again.
$21.
Just on the table will be recovered overnight, we're being told, for the quarterfinals.
Because I don't know what the other tables are playing like. All I know is that Zhao Jintong won 4-0 against Lucas Kleckers with an absolute barrage of huge breaks earlier. So whatever table he was playing on, I'll be surprised if he had any complaints about.
Well, just hearing that, in fact, we were told literally a minute ago that it's being recovered tonight. It's actually not. It's being recovered tomorrow night for the semi-finals.
That's a bit unfortunate, but can't. Sometimes there's ways of getting these tables back when they're not so good, because it can all be to do with the atmospherics rather than the bed or cushions or whatever. No angle at all here. Not on the blue. So this is a little thin one. Position not assured. Just that when he hit the other red again, he had absolutely no control of the cue ball.
Matthew Stevens, 34.
So he still hasn't made a break over 35. 34, the latest effort. Yeah, the heist breaks. You can see that, of course, O'Sullivan made the century in frame 2. Matthews 35 came in frame 3. Total points, he's actually in front. Stevens by 4. Not much in the safety. Slightly ahead on the pot success. So it's very tight, this match still. It's not been the sort of flowing snooker that O'Sullivan necessarily enjoys, but he's kept at it, hasn't he? Made that good 74 clearance in the last frame. Dug in, as he did, as Neil said earlier, at the Crucible, where, you know, such a long event, it's not all going to be big breaks. You have to be mentally resilient, and he certainly was.
Was a concern. If you don't get the wobble in the bottom left pocket, the red could go anywhere, and it's gone, as you can see, all the way up the table. If it's finished a bit straight, might be the thing that saves O'Sullivan. He's having a look if Stevens has an angle of any description here. There's your answer. No angle at all.
Yeah, you know, we get spoilt by the quality of play that the players produce, but sometimes it's just hard work, because snooker is ultimately a very hard game, and this match has sort of reflected that. Worth saying as well, Neil, of course, Ronnie O'Sullivan, in terms of the one-year list, he's trying to get into the World Grand Prix. It's the top 32 on the one-year list. He's not quite there yet, so all the points he can amass here, and obviously in the next event, the UK, are very important.
Yeah, of course, with the World Grand Prix being earlier, being before Christmas this year, and of course less tournaments, no Chinese events, so it's a bit of a sprint to get into that.
What?
Well, I'm sure he'd love to get this put away now,
Cool.
because, as I say, he won't have that long before he's back on to play Tepchire and Nu, albeit that shouldn't be a safety-dominated affair, I wouldn't think.
I think it's pretty safe to say you're right there, Dave. It happens, a terrific game. You know? Sullivan has not won here yet, but he's in a position now to take charge.
Well, nice cannon to free those 3 reds.
Going to want to pot the blue and get the blue out of the way of the red above it. Until that blue is potted, he couldn't win the frame.
I
I think one thing that might spur O'Sullivan on here, it's been a real slog this match. It's just the winning line is inside.
19.
And this is in his own hands as to whether he gets across it in this visit. That was a very good shot, as ever. His cannon play has always been
25.
immaculate. Played it with, even if the cannon didn't work out perfectly, he was always going to be on the red, down the right cushion.
26.
Overrun slightly there.
34. Well,
there's a lot of chances, Matthew. Frames that he lost.
42.
Yeah.
2 on up, and the next frame, Dave, were ones he should have won, especially that black.
Yeah, sorry, Neil. Yeah, I think, you know, you can accept being comprehensively outplayed by the best player ever. He hasn't been, has he? He's had a lot of chances, as you say, in every frame.
47.
That black for 3-1 is the big moment of the
49.
afternoon, really. As for O'Sullivan, we'll see what he thinks about the performance. The main thing is he's still going, as long as he can just finish off here. The green is for the match.
52.
So Tepchire Nu, Thailand's Speed King, former shootout winner, awaits. There's the match time. It's been a bit of a slog, really, by their standards. We heard Them both talking about the table.
61.
But Ronnie O'Sullivan and Judd Trump are still on a collision course to meet in the final of the Northern Ireland Open for a third year running.
67.
Both had tough matches this afternoon. Both have made it through.
74 frame on match.
Successive 74s to finish off. Of course, he made 103 in the second. Matthew Stevens will certainly look back on that fourth frame when he missed the black to lead 3-1. But it's Ronnie O'Sullivan, the reigning world champion, who books his place in the last 16. He's the winner by 4 frames to 2.
I think his table's playing so bad. The heaters are too hot.
Good luck, Henry.
Anyway, who gives the monkeys? Good luck. See you later.